Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Quinten Krzysko, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
The Chicago Bears win another game. They beat the Minnesota Vikings today, 19-17, improving their record to 7-3 now. I mean, it's starting to feel like this is a playoff team, don't you think, Sonny?
I mean, Q, I don't understand. As soon as this game ended, a lot of the feedback I've been getting is of Chicago Bears fans being upset. But my favorite NFL team is 7-3. There's no way. This is why I said confused. You can see it if you're watching this on YouTube. I don't understand this football team that I thought maybe would, win 7 games, roughly, maybe 8, maybe 9 games this year. We're already there. It's not even Thanksgiving. So Q, tell me, why is everyone upset?
I think because it's such a, this is the second straight game where it was disappointing in some way, like late in the game. And then like that extreme up, like we're up here, extreme down, and then like back up. I think it just plays with your psyche to it, right? Because like think back to last week, they underperformed against the Giants, it felt like, until Caleb hit the Superman button and very late in the game finally made a run and won the game. And then in this week, it felt like they kept coming up short, right? Like the entire second half, they couldn't get in the end zone, and just this callback to week 1 of like, this is how that felt. And we can't let JJ McCarthy do that to us again. We can't let the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell do that to us again. And then we let them do it to us again, So like, I kind of get the difficulty in processing of like how I should feel coming out of this game. But at the end of the day, I'm sitting there going, my favorite team won another game. We're 7-3. And that Vikings team, that Vikings defense, they held Lamar Jackson like 170 passing yards last week. They're a tough defense to go against. And I'm not going to sit here and apologize for victories.
No, exactly right. And again, I think that's where my confusion lies, because I feel like we just played this game in week 1. And we were at home in week 1. And in this case, we kind of did the same old thing. While watching this game, there's no point where I didn't think the Chicago Bears were the better football team today. And yeah, at the end, unfortunately, Minnesota took the lead. But for me, I guess we're going to be talking about this over the next 45 minutes or so, but Caleb Williams didn't have a good game. I don't think Ben Johnson had a good game. A lot of our wide receivers were dropping balls. And yet we came out of this game with our first division win of the season. And so my mindset is this football team, which we're still trying to figure out. We don't know how good of a football team it is. We don't know if it's an average football team. Is it good? Is it elite? Probably not elite. I think that's pretty safe to say. But even on its bad days, they're beating teams in its own division, which is, in my opinion, inarguably the best division in football right now. And so, again, I ask you, why should I be upset about stealing a victory on the road, too, by the way, Q? We won in Minnesota, which is not necessary. Look, I get it. I'm sure we're going to talk about their quarterback soon enough. But 7-3 feels really good.
Yeah. And, I mean, 2 weeks ago, this Vikings team beat the Lions, right? They went into Detroit and beat the Lions. Like that says something to me as far as like, they're not a bad team, like despite being under 500. And frankly, they came into this game, their entire fan base saying, oh, we're going to beat them. Like we're going to beat them, because Kevin O'Connell's only lost to the Bears once in his career. And that was with Joshua Dobbs starting at quarterback that they just acquired. Like, so to Vikings fans, to the Vikings themselves, Bears weren't a problem. Like, and now it's kind of like, okay, to them, they're probably going, okay, the Bears might be a problem now. Like they didn't just fold like we're used to them doing. So that aspect is exciting to me. And Sonny, you mentioned Caleb not having a good game, and I'm curious what makes you feel that way?
At least in the first half, it bothered me in the sense where, like, the offensive line to me had a little step back from the previous couple weeks. I'll rewatch this game, and absolutely, I'm going to watch you and Ron on your show Tuesday night. But I think he had a couple bunnies, a couple easy plays, easy throws in that first half that he made. He threw the ball maybe a little bit too hard. Again, they're NFL wide receivers, so maybe they should have come down with it. 16 of 32 is fine. 193 yards. No touchdown today, but also no interceptions. And I mean, he came up with some evasions today. Even for Caleb Williams, where we've talked about how good he is at evading a defensive line and pressure. Today, he had some really impressive ones. But I just don't think that the throws that we've seen, like, I feel like every week we have a couple throws, a couple plays that we're talking about. Caleb made those plays. That's I'm him moment. I don't know if we had any of those necessarily today.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And he definitely missed a few throws early on the first two possessions. There were two throws that stand out to me, two deep balls that got overthrown. But outside of that, I mean, the more I sat and thought about, like, after the game, I'm thinking, like, Brian Flores threw the kitchen sink at the Bears offense today. I think that
For sure.
I am not sure, like, the way that I can best describe it as the way that I started thinking about it is today was a very tough chess match between the play callers on both sides of the football. Like, and that is where a lot of division games come down to, I feel like, because these guys all know each other so well. But I think Brian Flores might have actually gotten the better of Ben Johnson today. But to me, I'm sitting there going, like, that's going to happen when you're going against Brian Flores. He's going to get your number at times. But to me, I think I don't know what more Caleb could have really done in the second half, particularly, where I'm sitting there going, like, I don't feel like he missed a lot of throws outside of those two early ones. And there were a few drops in there. Like, I don't want to make excuses for him either, but, like, I don't think he played poorly by any means when I'm sitting there trying to, like, really think through what I saw happen today. I don't think he put on the cape, like you said. But I also think that's tough to do when Flores is on his A game like he was today.
But then are we being, like, unbiased here, right? Like, if we talk about, how the national media talks down on Caleb in past couple weeks, even though we see what the Superman, Iceman, I guess you can, the new popular nickname that Caleb has. At the same time, like, on games like today, don't you want the way we talked about Caleb Williams all season long, for at least for the most part, is, talking about a guy who's coming into his own, not somewhat living up to that number one draft pick. Whether he's a franchise player or not, we don't know. But is he a quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl? I think, I don't mean to speak for you, but most of us are starting to lean yes, collectively. Games like today, when everything does happen to go wrong, I feel like you still should want to count on your quarterback in his second season to be able to make a couple plays that put you, game-breaking plays. Today we relied a lot on the defense, which is great, which is fine. Again, to me, that shows you this team might be better than we are giving it credit for. But I guess for me, it's just Caleb played like an average quarterback today, which is not a bad thing because in the history of Chicago Bears football, that's kind of what we're used to. But maybe now my expectations for Caleb are a little bit higher. But that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, that is a good thing, and I think some of where I'm coming down to it is, like, especially in the second half, it felt like they were just choosing to run the ball a lot, which I don't think is necessarily play calling as much as Flores, because they're calling two plays in the huddle. And they're saying can at the line of scrimmage. They're saying we're going to take what the defense is giving us, and a lot of times that was the run. So, like, the thing that I keep coming back to is there was a 2nd and 25, I think. Caleb made a 3rd and 3. with he made a nice throw that turned into a 3rd and 3,
Yeah.
and they were able to pick up the first down after that. There was a 3rd and 13 or 14 that he converted to Colson Loveland. And I'm like, those are the moments that stand out to me in my head of like, he made plays when there were plays to be made there. But in a lot of the rest of the game, it felt like the Bears were trying to run out the clock in a sense and trying to play a more safe approach because they weren't sure what they were going to see from Flores. Like they didn't feel like they had a good attack or a good feel for what he was throwing at them when. And I think that, to me, you can go at coaching on that if you want to, but I have a hard time going at Caleb on that because the ball wasn't in his hands a lot.
No, I get what you're saying, and maybe I'm being unfair to him. But again, in the first half, I think what just stood out to me is the overthrow on the DJ Moore pass in particular. But again, I'm looking at the stats while you were talking. Like even Lamar Jackson did not have a good game against this Vikings defense. You might be right. Again, Brian Flores is blind Forest, but I just think that right now, every single week, I feel like I'm getting so excited, and we saw what Caleb did last week, essentially winning that game for us. And again, technically, he won the game for us again this week. I think this is the 5th one of the year. And how much credit he gets for this, I don't exactly know. But yeah, right. Tomorrow, I'm just going to give him full credit for it. So, but, it's just one of those where, again, Caleb was fine. I don't want to hate on him too much because I'm sure the national media is already going to do it, and I'm not trying to be in that crowd in any sort of way. But simply, I guess, in some sort of way, I also, again, my expectations for Caleb are a little raised. It's like he made plays in the backfield and evading sacks, even though he did get sacked, I think, twice today. It would have been nice to see some throws that, again, 0 touchdowns. Your number one quarterback at this point, maybe, I would have liked to see at least 1 or 2.
Yeah. And I think that I think that's fair. Had Caleb not been coming off 2 really strong games, I might feel different, but he bought himself some leeway with that in my mind. He bought there's some good grace that comes with what he's done the last 2 weeks where I'm like, not every game he needs to be the difference in. And today it felt like he was a difference at times, but he wasn't the reason you necessarily won either. And I'm okay with that for this game because at the end of the day, I'm sitting there going, we got to have a road division game with a win. And, division games are a bitch. We saw it today. We saw the Denver Broncos beat the Kansas City Chiefs today. We saw the Cleveland Browns dang near take down the Baltimore Ravens today. Division games are different. And it's everyone you can get out of is a good thing.
And I will say one thing, Q. When Minnesota scored today, I think there was like 56 seconds left when they scored the last touchdown. I texted a buddy of mine. This is the first time in a long time that we've gone down in the last minute, and I don't necessarily think the game is over yet. Between this head coach and this quarterback that we have, not that those two necessarily had much to do with what those final 50 plus seconds had it, but still, it's the overall moment, the overall feel that we might be at a different place as Chicago Bears fans as we've been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we are. If you're a Bears fan and the thought didn't even cross your mind that they left too much time on the clock, I don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't know where your head's at because we've seen this all year. We've seen this 2 straight weeks now where the other team left too much time. And if you're not allowing that thought to even enter your mind, I think you need to reconsider what you're thinking about and the way you're thinking about it because, frankly, football is fun, Sonny. And you can't let it not be fun when it's supposed to be fun. And right now, as a Bears fan, this is fun and it's supposed to be fun. You need to allow yourself to have fun with it.
It's a lot more fun when you're 7-3. I'm not going to lie. And again, while we're recording this, we don't have the final result of this Detroit game. But right now, at least while we're recording, we're in first place, Q. This is really fun.
It's been a long time, man. It's been since 2018 or this late in the season for the Bears to be in first place. I think 2018 was the last time that happened.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a whole new world for us Bears fans right now. And, there's some flaws in there. I don't know how long the defense can keep sustaining like this, but frankly, I'm just happy to be along for the ride right now because this is just the start.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if it's a start, but maybe, this is like the middle portion, right? This is the transition year, which again, it's nice to kind of feel it going through the process. Do I think this Chicago Bears team is going to win the Super Bowl? Not necessarily, but it's one of those where if this team was, 8-2 or 9-1 or 10-0 or whatever, and considered a favorite, I'd feel paranoid that the bottom is falling off. Right now, I feel really good that we're in the transition phase of being a rebuilding team to a Super Bowl contending team. Right now, the 50-50 games are going in our direction, which is nice because I feel like we're kind of in the middle process. One more good offseason, all of a sudden this team, which ultimately could still win 10 games, 11 games, who knows where we're at this point. I think one good offseason, and we're in that conversation at least when it comes to possible Super Bowl contenders next year.
Now let's talk about this for a second, Sonny. Like a year ago, the Washington Commanders were this team, right? Who kept winning on last minute stuff, kept stuff that you could deem luck related if you chose to, which I did with the Commanders. But how do you feel about, are the Bears going to be able to avoid something like that happening next year? What's happening to the Commanders this year, you think? Or do you think that that's something that, like, how would you go about trying to not fall into that same pit?
I just think it's really hard to say until we see the results of the second half of the season, right? Like we've passed the first test, beating Minnesota at Minnesota. I think it's inarguable that the Bears have had a pretty, I don't know if it's easy. I don't think there's such a thing as an easy schedule in the NFL, but the teams that led to a 6-3 record aren't doing too successful themselves. Today, to me, was one of the first tests going into Minnesota, playing a very solid Minnesota team and coming out with a victory. We got Pittsburgh next week, and obviously we know what the second half of the schedule is going to look like. If all of a sudden this team, we'll see. Do they keep squeaking by when it comes to victories, or are they winning somewhat comfortably? And then we'll kind of get a barometer of what this team ultimately is. Right now, we still kind of don't know. I do think they passed the test today, but if they go, 3 and whatever the rest of the season, and we finish with 9 or 10 wins, on the whole, I think we're going to be satisfied. But you and I, who've been covering this team every single week, will understand that the team won 7 of its first 10 games this week. And to ultimately finish with maybe just 9 wins or 10 wins shows you that once the competition got tough, the Bears themselves couldn't quite elevate them to the team that they looked like in the first half. So I just think right now it's a little hard to tell how good this football team is and whether we can carry over these expectations to next year.
Yeah. I mean, partially I asked this question because I wanted to answer it as well to a degree. So
go for it. You
for my thoughts on this. I can go the quarterback route, right? I've never been a huge Jaden Daniels guy, but I believe a lot more in Caleb, but I feel like that's a cheap route to this, right? So I'm not going to harp on that too much as one, watch the Commanders go from one of the older teams in the NFL to the clear oldest team in the NFL from last year to this year. Based on their signings, the guys they brought in, the guys they were counting on, they got a lot older in the offseason, which I think is the opposite direction of where you want to go. I expect the Bears to continue trying to get younger here and maybe try shifting some contracts around. And I expect some decent roster turnover one way or the other. Additionally, I think Ben Johnson is a higher caliber play caller and a more respected play caller than Cliff Kingsbury. I think Dennis Allen is a higher caliber play caller and a more respected play caller than Dan Quinn. and schemer, like not just play calling, schematics, coaching in general. I like both of what the Bears have there better than what the Commanders had. And that combined with me liking the quarterback more. And again, I'm obviously biased, but like I think that trio bodes well and better for the Bears than it did for the Commanders, along with hopefully adding more youth and having more youth in key spots already, right? Like with a Romo Dunze, with a Darnell Wright. The Bears already have some potential blue chippers, at the least red chippers, at some key spots that I don't think the Commanders really had. I think the Commanders' success was before they were ready to have it. And I do think the Bears roster is in a position where like they're ready for this to be winning games. So like they have some of that high talent that I don't really think the Commanders had in different positions.
Yeah, I think you might be spot on with that. I think what you're kind of saying is essentially the foundation that the Bears are showing right now between not just the quarterback, because again, Washington fans will obviously differ on their opinions on that end. But I think, again, slight bias. I think head coach wise, and as you mentioned, Dennis Allen give us a leg up when it comes to what the future outlook of the Chicago Bears team looks like compared to last year's Commanders team.
Yeah. But Sonny, you want to go ahead and jump into our first segment here?
Let's do it.
The baddest man.
Sonny, who was the baddest man on the Chicago Bears today?
You know, there's a couple guys I'm thinking of. I just don't. I'm going to sound a little conflicting when we talk about this later on in the show, but I want to give a little love to Cole Kmet, a guy who I think when we needed him to catch the football, he simply caught the football. 5 for 45. No receivers had good numbers today if you look at that box score. But Cole, when we needed him most, he caught the ball. Colston did his job as well, and I'm going to talk about Colston in a little bit as well. But for me, Kmet did the job when he was called for.
Yeah, I like that. And Kmet was a guy that I strongly considered because I think he had one of his best games of the season today.
For
and
sure.
That's not just because of the catches. It's because he continued to execute well as a blocker and a key player in the Bears' run blocking scheme.
He's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, for me, I'm going with something a little weird because I don't think there's a clear choice for this week. A part of me wanted to go Dennis Allen just because I do think that he made life hard on JJ McCarthy today and made him jumpy. And some of the stuff with like the Bears are guys when they blitz are very clearly coached that if you can't get to him, at least take away the throwing window. And like that mattered today at least twice, I think, where once they got a hand on the ball, another they made him hesitate.
Mm-hmm.
But I also thought about DeAndre Swift because he had 21 carries in this game, averaging 4.3 a carry. Like that is some good weight. And then I'm like, well, does the O-line deserve some more credit? Because I do think the O-line in spurts was very, very good today. But in spurts, they were very poor. So like I end up like in a conflicting spot there too. Ultimately, I'm going with the cornerback room.
Okay.
They're playing down, out. Tyreek Stevenson left this game at one point. And, they gave up a touchdown after that. But I have to think, and I don't have proof of this. I haven't seen the coach's tape. I haven't seen how chippy they were out there. I have to think the Bears corners were getting in the receivers' heads. They were getting physical with them, handsy with them, and in their heads to some degree, because I don't think that many drops just happened. Because they dropped like 6 passes today. They dropped a lot of balls. Like people out there saying like, well, both teams had drops. The Vikings dropped some bad ones that like should have been big hitters. So like, I have to think the Bears corners had something to do with that being frustrating. You've just getting guys off their spots a bunch, and then the receivers are pressing because like Jay Jettas and Jordan Addison don't just drop passes that much. TJ Hawkinson is a good tight end. Even though I've never been a big like TJ Hawkinson guy, right. He doesn't have drops like that often. I think the Bears defensive backs really got chippy with the pass catchers, and made them start thinking about things other than catching the football. And that's how you get drops. So to me, I'm going with the quarterback room.
I mean, I like that too. I think, if we did an episode, and maybe this is an idea that I'm just pitching out to you halfway through one of our episodes between me and you and Ron, we're talking about like halfway through the season type of MVP rooms. It's got to be that defensive back room. Like the way that they, despite all the injuries, the new people that we've brought in have kind of, understood the culture and committed to the culture, and they've committed to making good plays. And that's exactly, CJ Gardner-Johnson had that great tackle for loss early in the game, which I really thought kind of set the tone for the game. And you take a look at this box score, Justin Jefferson's always going to get his numbers, but he went 5 for 61 today. If you told me before the game that Justin Jefferson would go 5 for 61, I think both of us would have taken that.
Yeah, he had a big drop late in the game. I mean, like they're doing something to get these guys to mess with their psyche out there, because like this is the second game in a row really where they've held Jefferson down, like to a degree, and some of that's probably JJ McCarthy, but at the same time they had drops. The ball was there multiple times for them and they couldn't capitalize. So, and also, I mean, I feel like I need to shout out Nahshon Wright because he's been the nicest man so often. Yeah. And he had a very good chance to be one of the nicest men today. Like, or that first quarter, if it wasn't for drops and miss throws, he probably should have been hit for 4 targets, 4 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown in the first quarter. But he bounced back from that. Like they didn't happen, but at the same time, as a player, you're like, man, he was wide open on me. Like, it's like he didn't let that all snowball. He instead just had the short memory, the memory of a goldfish. Went out and got the pick in the end zone. Like that's huge, and especially the same week as losing his JUCO coach, who was as was talked about plenty, was shot on campus this past week, where Nahshon Wright went to junior college. It was on the Netflix show. What the show called? I want to say Hard Knocks, but that's not. Last Chance U. Chance U. Like that's, I don't know, that's a tough thing to come out here and play for or play after. He came out and showed up and made a huge play.
Yeah, I really do think that was one of the feel-good moments of this football game. But if we're talking about guys who are more consistently shown in the nicest man, segment, and today can at least be debated. Yeah, I thought about it, bringing him in on the baddest man, was the guy who arguably won us the football game today. And that's Devin Duvernay, a guy who, routinely I'm like, we need to upgrade on our kick returns. And yet today he had that one kick return when we needed it most. Because as much as I do trust Caleb and I do trust Ben Johnson, he made their life really easy in that last 50 seconds. So, before we move on, I did want to give him that shout out, because at least today I think he got one of the game balls at the end of the game as well. And that was well deserved.
Yeah, I mean, he's frankly, you talk about guys here almost every time I've seen him return a kick. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking they need a new kick returner, and like it's really nice to see him come through in a big moment like that and really just put the Bears in a position where you don't even really have to think about it. As long as we can run a little bit here, we got the field goal, easy. It's money. But let's go ahead and get to our next segment here.
The nicest man.
Sonny, who is your nicest man for the Chicago Bears today?
I'm not trying to be mean here, Q, but I'm, moving forward, I'm just trying to figure out what DJ Moore's future is with this football team. In the last 2 weeks, he's had 7 targets. He's had 1 reception for 18 yards in 2 weeks. This is DJ Moore, a guy who before the season, certainly last year, we're talking about, hey, this guy's eventually going to lead the Chicago Bears in all the wide receiver, leader categories. Right now, obviously Caleb overthrew him early on in the game, but still just not making the plays. And maybe it's not just him. Maybe it is, Caleb and his, you and I both agree to average game that he had today. But for me, it's just, it's not just him. Rome didn't necessarily have a good game, but he also had, I think, only 2 catches today. So I'm sure we're going to hear from Papi Dunze later on this week. But the guy,
him in targets though.
yeah. Well, yeah, fair enough. But for me, I think DJ Moore. It's just when you have it in your hands, come down with it. And at the end of late in the fourth quarter, I think we had an opportunity to possibly end the game. He didn't come down with it, and that kind of bothered me.
Yeah, I saw a tweet from someone out there of the video of the double catch DJ had, right? Which, like, hey, great job making a play to make sure you do secure the catch. But the tweet said, catch of the year candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And my brain just went to, ball hit him in the numbers, man. You don't got, like, that's not a catch of the year candidate. That's you need to catch that candidate. Like, that what I saw just kind of irked me the wrong way with that. Like, I was very frustrated by the fact that he didn't just catch that football. Let me just put it that way, because it felt like I was glad he did end up catching it, but it was right on. That there was no excuse to not catch that football, and for it to be that close to a non-catch when opportunities are kind of slim right now, and like you need to be taking every opportunity you can to get the football, make a play. Like that was, I don't know, that was concerning to me. I didn't love seeing it. We've heard some really good things about DJ lately from Ben and from like, it doesn't seem like DJ is a problem in any way. So like, I don't want to be making an issue out of something that's not an issue.
Sure.
But at the same time, I'm with you. Like, you're paid to be a wide receiver 1. We need a little more from you.
Well, I just feel like we saw more of that the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
For me, like it's one of those things where, like, I know Rome is getting better, as he should be in his second year, but I just don't like the idea. DJ is still a young wide receiver, relatively. Like he should be in his prime right now. Let's just put it that way. He shouldn't be regressing at this point, and that's what I'm kind of concerned with. Is he still is he still a really good wide receiver? Yeah, I think so. But then you got to make simple plays like that. Like you shouldn't get extra credit for throws that are, like you said, at the numbers.
Yeah. Now, for me, for my nicest man, it's tough. Like, part of me said I wants like Jonah Jackson. There were a few plays from Jonah Jackson where I was like, the Vikings kind of have his number, right? Like he had a rough week 1, and I think he had some really rough moments today. But then I go on Twitter and I see Owen Cruz out. Look at the finish from Jonah Jackson on this run, the final run of the game for the Bears, the final offensive play. And it's like, oh boy, that dude just dominated that guy. Like Jonah Jackson just killed a man. And then I'm like, well, I can't go Jonah Jackson now. Like, and I'm sure he had some other moments in that too. Like we'll get through that, all the offensive line tape. And so I hate to put it on any offensive lineman without looking at the tape that much. The guy who stands out a bit more to me is Noah Sewell. Seemed like he was just kind of getting like the Vikings had 2 guys they wanted to target today. It was Nahshon Wright and Noah Sewell. Nahshon Wright made them pay once and was able to like do enough to essentially be in the heads, I guess, of the receivers. Like he did give up the touchdown late. I thought that he was about a half inch away from intercepting that football. Like he was so close to intercepting that football. But Noah Sewell ends up being my guy, because I think they really tried to target him in the passing game, and I think they were pretty successful in doing so. He ended up with 10 tackles on the day, which tackles are kind of a deceiving stat, but it seemed like they were able to get some matchups with wide receivers on him when they wanted to and be able to take advantage of it. So today I'm going with Sewell.
Which I get. And I do think like this is probably the first game in a long while where you probably have more candidates for nicest man than it comes to baddest man. But again, we come out of this with the victory. So it's one, I get what you're saying, and you're exactly right. What do you think? Like another guy I was actually considering for this was Ben Johnson. I don't think this was a well-played or well-called game when it comes to what Ben usually does, in particular on third downs and even fourth down some of his calls. I think Ben Johnson was a little bit too much into his own head and got a little too cute. And, we're fortunate at the end. We still, came out with the victory, but still, I love to lavish Ben Johnson with praise when he does things correctly. I also got to call him out today. I don't think this was a grade A, maybe not even a grade B Ben Johnson game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think the play late where they ran the football with Tyson Bagent out there, and the linebacker was like, "Well, I'm not." He bet right, but he just bet that Bagent was nothing on this play, and that led to Travis Homer getting tackled in the backfield, despite a few face masks that they could call. But that's neither here nor there. I think I'd put it this way: when the Bears are inexplicably pounding the rock, I think that is a sign that Ben Johnson is a little bit misread the game plan a little. Because if there's one thing this offense knows how to do right now, it is run block in a handful of different run concepts. Because I believe that is the one thing that they have like gone hammered and hammered and hammered in practice. And that is the one thing that they know that they can lean on. So when they have moments of doubt, they lean on that. And I think that's what we saw today. They said, well, we don't have a great feel for what they're going to do in coverage. Flores is really giving us a hard time with our, we're calling a cover one beater and he's dropping 8 in the zone. And that's not, that makes life harder for the passing offense. But we can still do in either of those no matter what they're dropping, we can run the damn football. So we're going to run the football. I think that's where they ended up today. And that's a lot of what we saw today.
Yeah. And I think it's fair. The mark of a good coach is, let's be fair, right? The last few years, do you think Eberflus teams win this game today?
Oh, Lord, no.
No chance.
Hell no.
No chance that they win this game.
You kidding me? The Bears, so here's the thing. That's with that. The Bears had, what? Let's see. A 15-play drive, a 9-play drive, a 10-play drive, and 2 8-play drives. That's not that takes extreme discipline from an offense, from a team. You can't be derailing with penalties. You can't be having mental errors. And they had a few penalties out there, but to be sustaining drives like that, it requires such a well-coached team. And I think that's where Eberflus would it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't happen.
Exactly. So that's why, again, he's a candidate of mine when it comes to nicest man. But overall, we're 7-3, right? And I think that's kind of where I come in with my big perspective on this football game. This was a game that was clearly not a good football game from the Chicago Bears, from what they showed today. There were no standouts necessarily, and yet to win a game on the road when your quarterback didn't have a good game, when your head coach really didn't have a great game, and you win a divisional game for the first time, I'm confused. I think Bears fans need to be a lot happier.
I agree. I mean, I think it's time to put some of our what's the word? I was gonna say shame. I don't think shame is right, but worry or concern about being frauds to rest. They're frauds. We'll find out eventually, but who cares? They're 7-3. Have fun with it.
I mean, today was a test, and they passed the test. It wasn't pretty, but it's not always going to be pretty, especially in the NFC North against a really good, or not really good, but a good football team, a well-coached football team. They came out with the win today. And you know what? Now we're really serious about having this conversation about making the playoffs, which before the season, if you told me 10 games in that we'd have this discussion, I would have thought you were crazy. But here we are.
Sonny, 2 weeks ago, you would have told me that Jalen Johnson might be back for the Packers game. I wouldn't have believed you. Oh, yeah. So, that's where we're at. And we can sit here and say it's close games and there might be fluky, but at the end of the day, I believe in the quarterback. I believe in the coaching staff, and I believe that if you get this secondary healthy, I start to believe in this defense a whole lot because this whole defense revolves around talented cornerbacks and safeties. They have not had talented cornerbacks on the field at all this season outside of Tyreek Stevenson. You get Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson out there with Tyreek Stevenson, suddenly I think this defense starts to make a lot more sense. And from there, I already said I believe in the quarterback. I believe in this offensive line. I'm scared of Theo Benedict, but outside of that, like we're 4 out of 5. I believe you can pound the rock, and I believe in the quarterback. So like that means I believe in the offense. And we're talking about a real team that is dangerous at that point, in my mind.
No, exactly. When you talk about big picture, this team is 7-3 without their best defensive player. You know, a guy who we thought would be out longer. Now, obviously, we got really good news this past week. And as you mentioned, he could very well be playing against the Green Bay Packers, you know, a game that, again, you're talking about interdivisional, a game that's going to really matter for playoff implications. This defensive back rooms we talked about earlier today has absolutely held its own. It's done everything that we've asked for, considering the injuries that that room has faced. But to have some of those guys now coming back, after, you know, now you're talking about guys who have been playing suitably, you know, as well as we can ask them to play, to be the backups. And that just makes the whole room in its entirety even better. And again, that, like you said, when you trust your quarterback, when you trust your head coach, when you trust your defensive coordinator, and now a room in your the defensive backs room, which already has been playing well, you add another couple weapons that you know are legit, arguably the best players in that room. Time to get excited.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean Super Bowl this year, but like let me put it this way. This team believes in itself right now. They get Jalen Johnson back, they get Kyler Gordon back. If I'm teaming the wild card round, I don't want to see the Bears.
No.
Yeah, no one wants to see them. But, Sonny, any final thoughts you want to throw out there before we close this thing out?
No, again, you know, I feel like I keep rehashing this, but, you know, it's a game that was not pretty. I understand. And the Bears nothing stood out to you positively necessarily about this football game. You missed, you know, a field goal with your kicker, but, you know, which is always going to be a concern in the back of your mind. And you went to the last play of the game where he actually did come through. But overall, this is not this may not be a Super Bowl team. We all understand that. We all acknowledge that. But this is a football team that even on its bad days can win a game on the road against another good interdivisional opponent. And even that, for me, is a legacy step for where this team is eventually headed. And that makes me so comfortable about not just this season, but more importantly, the future. And I really feel like, you know, maybe this is me spin doctoring this whole thing, but really, genuinely, I feel like I just watched a okay, probably bad performance by my favorite NFL team, and they still came out victorious. And now, possibly by the end of this episode, are number one in their division. And you know what? I'm okay with that. And so should a lot of people.
Yeah, agreed. I like the way you put that. And so the only final thought I've got here is just maybe the tweet of the year that I saw from account NFL Memes, which is, you know, if you know me and at all pay attention to stuff I put out there, that's not the type of thing that I'm typically throwing out there. But I got such a good chuckle out of this that you expect me to believe it's coincidence that the perennial chokers that are the Chicago Bears become the favorite football team of the Pope and they start winning like this. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's just, it's art. Beautiful. Perfect tweet.
I love it. And, you know, again, bless this Chicago Bears and Philadelphia Eagles alliance that's also been going around on social media as of late. Hopefully the Eagles can close this out against Detroit. And, you know, I'm looking forward to that Black Friday showdown.
Go Birds, and we'll look forward to Black Friday. Sonny, why don't we close this out the only way we know how?
You know what? 7-3 feels really good. I love watching NFL football. I like it even more so when the Chicago Bears are a good football team. Bear down, Q.
Bear down.